Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3H's of the channel. And in this video, it's all about things that are truly just strange in some way. And there are definitely some strange ones in this video. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So I've told this story to a lot of people before. One night, I was up playing video games with my two brothers. It was super late by the time we got done. 4 a.m. rolls around. I was dead tired. I decided to finally go to bed. I don't know how long I've been asleep because time is always kind of distorted when you have a deep sleep. I wake up thinking that I'm actually awake. It's just after sunrise. My sheets are off my bed, as if somebody had ripped them off to make a point. All of my bedroom windows are wide open. The blinds are all the way up. My room has 3 windows. There are grays staring at me with those giant black eyes, 2 to 3 of them per window. I get that fearful gut feeling that's described anyone claims to see one. I jump up, too scared to try and leave my room. I'm petrified. I try screaming to my mom as loud as I can, but no sound comes out. But I was able to do every other action needed to scream or yell. The aliens are staring at me with intent. And then suddenly, I wake up. My room is perfectly fine. The sheets are on the bed. The blinds are shut. It's just about the same time of the morning as this dream thing, but I'm not in my bed. I can never shake the feeling that this wasn't a dream. The aliens were taller than people describe them, but everything else was so lifelike, realer than real, precise in detail, like it really just happened moments ago. Usually, I forget nightmares or dreams of any kind, but this one has always stuck with me, and I hate the sight of those things. I still can't shake the feeling that it wasn't a dream. In 2004, I was a newly promoted commander, EOD Flight 20th Civil Engineering Squadron at Shaw AFB. I was out at this old munitions depot on Perimeter Road. It was being decommissioned for security. It was less than 50 yards from the wire. I was moving crates of MK-10 detonating caps. And then I suddenly hear, "Lieutenant, what the F do you think you're doing?" I turn around, and there's a guy in an old tan uniform with the old-style Master Sergeant stripes, 6 down instead of 5 down and 1 up. The guy in tan says, "You've got 2 crates of those, and they're wet, and you're about to put them in a truck without grounding yourself? You are a damn safety hazard, sir." I realize exactly what I was about to do, so I set the boxes down, touch the bumper, pick them back up and store them. The guy in tan says, "Good, don't do that shit again. Maintenance doesn't like cleaning up body parts." And then the guy just walks off. I asked my squadron CO if there was some old Master Sergeant who was authorized to wear a uniform that was 40 years obsolete. He laughs and says, "Oh, you met Charlie. What dumb shit were you about to do?" I explain. The colonel tells me that that's the ghost of Master Sergeant Charles York. Charlie retired in 1960 and died a year later. He was pretty legendary for being a hard ass about safety. If he called you out, you were about to screw up hard. I go back before the building is closed down, and I decide to thank Master Sergeant York for continuing to stand duty. Basically, I was saved from killing myself by a 40-year-old ghost. This is something from my late childhood that still sticks with me. I had no close neighbors when I lived with my parents, It was just miles and miles of forest. There was a creek and a little valley or gully below the house. I used to play there with our super dog, a German Shepherd. And as we're playing, suddenly the dog starts acting weird, nervous almost. He barks at me, almost as if saying, "Come on, bro, we have to go home. Something's not right." So he leaves. He comes back, looks at me, takes a few steps away, comes back again, and then leaves. The dog is gone. I think, whatever, the dog is just being weird, and I keep looking for crawdads in this creek. And then I hear, "Hi, you're new." This scares me. I fall in the creek, and then I hear happy little girl giggling. And then I turn around, and it's the prettiest little girl that I have ever seen in my life, standing there on the edge of the clearing. She says, "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," and says that her name is Becca. She looks my age, give or take a year. It never occurs to me, or at least I didn't care, that I probably should have seen her at school. But to me, she was so pretty that she bypassed that young kid cootie zone. She had long, jet black hair, green eyes, and was wearing tomboy clothes, a plain white t-shirt, cut-off blue jeans, and in her bare feet. It's literally still burned into my mind. My 8-year-old game kicks in. I tell her that I'm catching crawdads to put into my aquarium. I ask her if she wants to come to my house and see it. She says, "How far is it?" I tell her that it's just up over the hill. And she says, "Oh," and looks confused. It must be new. She climbs up this big beechnut tree in the clearing that sort of grows across the creek at an angle. The more she laughs and giggles and talks, the more I'm just enamored with her. I tell her that we moved in 3 years ago, so yeah, I guess the house is pretty new. She says, "Oh, just over that hill?" and points. I explain that yeah, and you just go on and out of the woods. It's not that far. And then she says, "My mom says that I'm not supposed to leave the woods." And even back then, this ticked an alarm bell. I thought that's really weird. But we keep talking. I'm already a bit of a geek, so I'm just talking about frogs and crawdads and comic books, Star Wars, and everything else. She doesn't say very much about these things, but she just seems happy to listen. She tells me where to look for what she calls the good crawdads. I'm stunned that she hasn't seen Star Wars. I tell her the whole story. She's fascinated. I'm fascinated by her. Eventually, it begins to get dark. I tell her that I have to go home. She seems kind of sad and begs me to stay a little longer and talk. She asks, "Do you know any more stories?" I tell her I do, but I really do have to go. I promise to come back the next day and bring some of my comic books and lightsabers. She seems legitimately excited. As I'm leaving the clearing, I turn back to look at her again and say, "See you tomorrow," but she's already gone. I get home. My mom notices that I'm acting different and asks me what's put me in such a good mood. I lie and say that it's just I found some really nice crawdads for my tank. I didn't get it then, but I do now. I essentially had a kid secret romance. It was really brewing, and telling anybody would ruin it. The next day was Saturday. My mom and dad were sleeping in. I get up early by sheer force of will and sneak some comics and toys out my window. I start my chores, hide my bag in the edge of the woods, and cut the grass. I tell my parents that I'm going to go to the creek, and I feel like I'm floating all the way there. Becca is already there in the tree. She drops flower petals in to bait the fish. She prances all over, excited to see what I've brought. Immediately, she's fixated on the lightsabers. We play fight for hours. I teach her how to make lightsaber noises. We chase each other through the woods, laughing and having a great time. It's one of the fondest memories of my childhood. She's better than me, quicker, She runs faster than me, and she's not even wearing shoes. Later, I sit under the beechnut tree and read comics to her. She likes me to do the voices, so I read and point while she looks over my shoulder at the pictures, and later I realize she's wearing the same clothes. Then later I realize again that she can't seem to read. Eventually, it's lunchtime. I hear my mom calling me off in the distance. Becca looks scared. I don't understand why, but I don't say anything. I ask her if she wants to come over for lunch. She gets sad and says that she should go. I get a little frustrated without understanding why. She hugs me and makes me promise that I'll come back the next day and bring more of my funny books. I go home happy but confused. This is the closest I'll ever come in my life to actual bliss. My parents both knew that there was something up with me, that I'm keeping something secret. They let me keep it. Weeks pass like this. I spend more and more time deep in the woods. We play and fish, and she listens to me read. My parents let me keep my secrets, but they're getting worried, asking questions, glancing at each other at my answers. A day comes when we're reading. Becca shushes me. She says, "Somebody's coming." She runs off in the woods before I can say anything. I want to call out for her to come back, but now I can hear someone coming too. It's my dad. He's smiling, but his eyes aren't. He asks me what I'm up to. I know that they won't believe me, but I lie anyway. I say that I just like to read here. He gathers my stuff and says we're going home. I feel guilty, but I don't understand why. I feel mad about feeling guilty. Eventually, we get home. The walk back felt like it was forever. My parents tell me that it's okay to have imaginary friends. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I break and shout out that Becca is not imaginary. They ask me who she is. I break and tell them the whole thing. They're visibly concerned. They patiently explain that she can't be real because there's not another house for 15 miles. I get mad. I storm back into the woods. I shout her name over and over again. There's no answer. I cry. I go home completely broken, heartbroken. Everything just feels awful. I go back the next day. I bring a comic with me. I sit under a beechnut, reading it out loud, very out loud. I catch a shadow in the tree above me. I look up. It's a black cat with her green eyes. Becca still lives in those woods. She always will. You'll have to bear with me, as this is a pretty weird and pretty unbelievable chain of events. Way back when I was 16, I used to sneak out with my friends to hang out and explore abandoned buildings sometimes, living in Mississippi at the time, near a town called New Albany. We had decided to explore this building that was way in the backcountry and supposedly extremely haunted because a bunch of Satanists killed themselves there. And being the Bible thumper area it was, the locals kept it out of the local papers, but word of mouth is still a thing. So me and my friends, there were 5 of us, get there, and it's a slightly dilapidated 2-story house. When you go inside, it's got a long hallway with doors on either side, ending at a staircase that leads to the upstairs. We decide to check the upstairs first because why not? We start to go upstairs, and my head starts to hurt. I think nothing of this because my abusive grandparents had me on medication that I really shouldn't have been on. So getting headaches was nothing new to me, and I would get them fairly often. As we ascend the staircase, however, the headache gets worse, to the point that I'm thinking of turning back, but I try to tough it out. When we got to the top of the stairs, there's a long hallway, as well as doors on either side again. We take one step into the hallway, and I feel like that someone shoved a spike through the back of my head. I pass out. The next part was told to me by my friends later, and I don't think that I have any reason to really doubt them. So, after I passed out, they hear a thud, and they turn to see me laying on the floor. I was bringing up the rear in case someone tried to sneak up on us, and I had the best hearing in the group, and they rushed to turn me over and try to wake me up, wondering what happened. Suddenly, my eyes shoot open. I grab my friend Bobby right by the throat, and according to them, lift myself and him off the ground. Now, I'm not a skinny person, but he weighed 260 pounds. This would have been impossible one-handed. And then I said, in a voice nowhere near my own, "You need to leave now." They start freaking out and saying, "Fine, we'll leave." And I put him down and start down the stairs. As we left the stairs, they hear a door upstairs slam open, and it sounds like something massive is stomping down the hallway toward the staircase. And I say, "Too late," and laugh, and then just crumble to the ground again. My friend Bobby picks me up over his shoulder in a fireman carry, and they haul ass back out to his truck. He tosses me in the bed of the truck and takes off after everyone piles in. 2 in the cab, myself and 2 others just in the bed of the truck. Shortly afterwards, I wake up and it's pitch black. Aside from being really confused as to where I was or what was going on, I remember that there was no weather that night. It was a very clear night with a bright moon. I look over at my friends, all groggy, and they stare at me and then the row behind us. I look in the cab, and the speedometer is well over 100 miles per hour. I look towards the back of the truck, and then the front, and then I notice that the lights aren't illuminating more than 10 feet in any direction. I then hear my other friend, Sean, say, "Oh shit." When I look toward the back of the truck, I just barely see something on all fours running after us, just at the edge of the light of the taillights. And then all of a sudden, it's bright out again, like someone flipped a switch. I mean, the moon is back. There's not a cloud in the sky. We see that New Albany is in the distance. We start slowing down. We head back to Bobby's house. No sleep is had. We're all terrified. A few months later, we decide to ignore what happened that night. I still wished we had gone to a priest now though, and we go camping together. My friend Bob had found a clearing in the woods near his house while hiking, so we load up early in the morning and hike to the spot. We set up and start hiking around. So fast forward to that night, and we have a huge campfire. We're smoking cigarettes and talking when I notice that aside from us, the woods has gone silent. Now, if you've been to Mississippi in the midsummer, you know that it's never, ever quiet at night. So I start looking around, and it was like someone had dumped ice in my veins, because the campfire is now barely illuminating 10 feet out, and I can barely see the tree line. I then look across the fire to my 2 other friends, Mark and William, and I see eyes behind them shining. I call out their names and say, "Behind you." They look and then immediately shoot to their feet and rush over to my side of the fire with Bob and Sean. I'm literally shaking in fear when I feel something tap my arm. I look down and Bob is holding out a pistol to me. I'm surprised to see each of my friends holding guns at this thing across from the fire. I find out later that they had gotten them after what happened at the house. I grab the pistol and I take aim. I'm an awful shot, but my uncle taught me the basics at his friend's firing range, and Bob counts down from 3 to 1, we open fire. This thing doesn't flinch. We empty the pistols, and suddenly it growls, and we thought that it was standing up, but it stood up taller, to well over 13 feet tall, and then it reached behind it and started climbing a tree while staring at us, and then it vanished up in the tree without a sign. And then the light comes back, and so do the night sounds. We didn't let the fire burn out after that, and as soon as the sun was up, we hauled ass out of there. And now this is the part where it really gets truly unbelievable. After that night, every now and then when I'm outside at night, I'd see that thing at the edge of any light, just staring at me. I know it's there because everything will go silent. Fast forward even more years. I was living in Illinois. All of us had gone our separate ways by that point. I hadn't talked to them for years when I got a phone call from an unknown number. It was Bob's wife. She said that he had passed away and that, in his notes, he wanted me and the others to be informed. It was never specifically said, but I think that he ended his own life. We got to talking, and I asked her if she had heard from any of the other guys. Very quickly, I found out that Bobby wasn't the only bad news that I was going to get. Mark and Sean had died in a car accident years prior in the middle of the night, and Will was found dead in his garage. I was shocked, but I thanked her for letting me know. I gave my condolences. After I got off the phone with her, I couldn't even speak. I just sat there for hours. After a while, I decided that I had to go to bed. I got up, I looked out my apartment window, and I swear I saw that effing thing looking at me through my closed curtains. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. To this day, every now and then, I'll see it, and I'll wonder why that I'm still alive. It's been 11 years since I found out that they all died. I'm not religious, so I can't exactly say that God is protecting me. I'm not suicidal. I'm not going out that way. I don't know what made me want to share all this, but be careful out there. Sometimes things get way too effing real. So, those were definitely strange, weren't they? If one of them really stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. And in the description below, I have an email that you can send your story to if you'd like to. Also down there is a PayPal and a Patreon if you would like to support the channel that way. And of course, super thanks here on YouTube. And with all of that, I think I will see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me, and thank you for watching. I'll catch you later this week.